Hi, everyone. This is Scott Micklin, the general manager of KSJE. We are excited to be part of the virtual Aztec Highland Games and Celtic Music Festival that's happening this year. And joining me now via Zoom from his home in Southern California to talk a little bit about his experiences with the Highland Games in Aztec and elsewhere around the world, Francis Brebner, who I'm sure as soon as he starts talking, you will recognize his voice. Francis, good day. Good to have you with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Nice to see you and enjoying your sunny yard in Southern California. A little different than Aztec this time of year, I would say.
A little bit. We've been a lot of sun lately. It's been very, very warm, but I'm not complaining. I'll welcome it.
There you go.
Big change to Scotland.
A little bit, and of course for folks maybe who don't know a little bit about your background, of course you grew up in Scotland. You were telling me in a fishing town, and of course have been exposed to Highland Games and all this for much of your life. Correct?
Yep, that's right. I was born in a fishing port in the northeast of Scotland called Peterhead, and once I got into my teens, I was looking for a sport to do. And tried various sports, long distance running, bodybuilding, powerlifting, a little bit of arm wrestling, strongman. And then when I was introduced to Highland Games, I knew instantly that was a sport for me. And for there, it's become a lifelong passion, which is still continuing. I love it. I enjoy it very much.
And so we know you as kind of the announcer, the guy who's on the field, who's telling us what's going on with the athletic events and things like that. But you actually competed at one time too, right?
Yes, I competed in all for 18 years in Highland Games and 14 years full-time, which took me all over the world, many places through the world, meeting many great athletes and great people. It's been fantastic.
What was your sport? What was your event?
I excelled in throwing the weights for distance. That was some of my better events, and the caber toss was one of my better events also. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so
one of my memorable events was probably winning the Royal Brebner Highland Games, breaking the ground record there, and actually winning the Royal Brebner caber and being presented with the Queen. That was a real highlight in my throwing career.
No kidding. That would definitely do it, that's for sure. And so that experience would gives you unique insights into what these athletes are doing on the field, which makes you so good at the job that you do at the Aztec Highland Games, to talk about what they're thinking, maybe what they're planning on doing, those types of things, actually, after doing it yourself.
Yeah. Well, Highland Games, it's a sport that it consumes you. Once you get involved in it, it just takes over. It's fun, the camaraderie between the athletes, it's fantastic. The training they've got to do for all the events, like in track and field, they may be practicing for one or two events, but for Highland Games, you've got in several events, for stone putting, weight throwing, hammer throwing, caber tossing, weight with the bar, and sheath. And you have got to get the techniques in each of these throwing disciplines. Now, it doesn't matter how strong you are. You could take someone with the technique and someone with strength, and someone with the technique is going to throw a lot further than someone with strength. But once you have the technique and the strength together, then that's when the distances come, and in some cases, world records are established. Yeah.
Right.
So there's a lot involved in Highland Games. It's not just a case of just turning up on the day and just throwing. Technique is the key. Once you get the technique, you're building the strength, and everything comes together,
That's true.
And for an established athlete, it's not something you can do in a year or two. You could take 3, 4, 5 years to get everything just honed in and dialed in together, Yeah.
Very true.
And these athletes are practicing anywhere between maybe 3 to 4 times a week in the field, honing their skills in each of throwing disciplines, and in the gym, maybe as much as 4 to 5 times a week training with the weights and building up the strength, So in the winter months, in the off season, they're building their strength in the gym, and they come closer to the beginning of the season, then they would taper off the weight. They'd still keep up some weight during the season, but then everything transgresses over to the throwing, all the strength, and they're working on the technique. In Scotland, when I was competing, once the season ended, basically it was back to the gym. Scotland, in winter time, it's very harsh, it's very cold, it's very wet, so you couldn't really keep up any kind of throwing as such, so it was all building strength. Now, if I was living in California or some other hot climate in America, then I could keep that going. So that was an advantage of living in a place with warmer weather, where the winters are a lot milder. But in Scotland, everything was so harsh. Basically, it was right into the gym, building your strength, and then as you get closer to the season, then you would convert all that strength into the throwing and work on the techniques, and then your season usually started in Scotland anywhere, let's say from May to September. And what I used to do, I would compete in the Scottish circuit, and then at the tail end of the circuit, I would come to America and roughly stay here for about a month, do the American circuit, go back to Scotland, then I would head to Australia, New Zealand for a few months, and then back to Scotland to start the winter's training again. But these athletes nowadays, they put a lot of time, a lot of effort into training for the sport. And this past weekend, to give an example, with the finals of the IGF All-American Highland Games Championship at Rainbow Bend Classic Highland Games in Wichita, we saw several world records being broken in the women's masters 1450-plus category. Stacey Snow and Teresa Nystrom, terrific job, and the world records in the sheath and the hammer, just incredible. And across the board, we saw multiple field records being established, And it gives you an idea of the caliber of the athletes it's competing on the circuit. Is the move from amateur ranks, they'll turn professional, and for there, once they finish their professional career, then they compete in masters competitions, and they're still doing well, still breaking records, national records and world records. So for some, it can continue. It could be a longevity sport. It just depends how you take care of your body, give it time to rest and heal in between. It determines how long you're going to last in this sport, because it can be quite demanding depending on how many games you are doing in a year. I think the average person could do anywhere between maybe 10, between 10 to 15, maybe 20, for some more, anywhere between 25, 30. But like for a professional athlete like myself and like Ryan Vera, Alistair Gunn, Scotland, many others that were doing it as a livelihood, we could do as much as between 40 and 50 games a year.
Wow! Yeah. Amazing. Well, and again, when we watch the Highland Games and the athletes that are on the field, as you announce how they're doing, it's you can see the athleticism in both the male and female athletes who are out there. I wanted to ask some of your memories and recollections of being here in Aztec for the Aztec Highland Games. You've been here for a number of years. Of course, the game started 10 years ago, and it really added, really kind of raised the bar with the Highland Games. And I can say that because I did your job before you got here, and I was so glad that they hired you because I didn't know what I was talking about half the time. So I appreciate what you bring to the games. But talk to me a little bit about what you've experienced in Aztec since you've been coming.
Well, Aztec, I really love our games. It's how a traditional games, you'd see a traditional games and like some of the rural areas. That's just typically how a Highland Games is.
Right.
A great feeling, great atmosphere, and one of the things I'm really pleased the Aztec is promoting is the young athletes coming into the sport. That's really, really great to see that. The encouragement of the young athletes coming in, and as they're moving their way up through the ranks for the novice class, to the amateurs, and for their own. It's really great to see that. The games this last few years has really been, it's really stepping up.
Right.
Across all the categories. It's really fantastic to see that and just see them growing for each year. And not just athletes, but the dancing, the music, just everything in a whole. It's just a fantastic games. I really, really enjoy games. They've done a great job in promoting these games, and I say each year they're getting bigger, they're getting better. The caliber of athletes come into sport, especially in the masters class. We've seen multiple records being broken. Just to name a few: Mona Melick, masters athlete, Chad Thompson,
right,
New Mexico, Sasquatch for Colorado. It's just been fantastic to watch all caliber come each year, and it's just fantastic. Yeah.
Very good. Well, and Francis, we can still hear you, but we seem to have lost your video from your device. I don't know if there's a way to reconnect, but we're still connected. But we don't see you anymore. But we're showing some images from some of the athletes at the Aztec Highland Games of the caber toss, which is an event that you told me you were familiar with because you used to do that, and maybe you still do that from time to time.
Well, now and again when I'm doing like coaching clinics,
okay,
I'll have a pick of the caber, and but I didn't throw as such. The years that I've been throwing took quite a toll on the body, and I've got artificial knees, bulging discs in my lower back. But when I feel up till when I'm doing coaching clinics, I'll have a throw, but nothing major. No, my days of throwing are over.
Understood.
And I wish if I could do it again, I would do it all over, and I wouldn't change anything.
Right.
Nothing at all.
And so talk to me a little bit about, as a radio announcer, a former TV guy myself, I mean, when you're out on the field and you've got an audience who are kind of wondering what's going on, what are your goals when you're out covering these Highland Games, and when you're talking to the athletes maybe afterwards or things like that? What do you want the audience to understand and appreciate about what they're seeing on the field out there?
Well, I want to give them the history.
Yeah.
Highland Games, how it all started, how it all came about. I tell them about the history of each of the throwing disciplines, and I will give them the information on each of the athletes, because that's something the spectators want to know. They want to know a little bit more about the athletes, where they're from, and what they do for a living, how long they've been doing it for. So I educate them on the athletes as well as the history, and I'll take questions from the audience as well. Anything that they want to ask, I'll answer it. I quite enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, no, it's great, and with your knowledge, of what we're seeing, it's great to have you there to be able to kind of interpret what we should be watching for and what we should be appreciating of all the work that these athletes are doing, and we're seeing you again on Zoom. So thank you for reconnecting. The technology gods are looking down on us and happy at the moment. So that's good too. And of course, the Highland Games involve both male and female athletes, and so that's something too that's worthy of mentioning for these women that come out and compete. I mean, they do an amazing job.
Yeah, just incredible. And as I was saying earlier, a lot of these athletes they come up through the ranks, amateur, professional, and then they continue as master athletes. And this last year, we introduced a women's Masters championships to the All-American. And as I said, last weekend we saw several world records being broken between Stacey Snow and the women's Masters 40 plus, Teresa Nystrom, as well as ground records across the board in the men's A group and the Masters 1450 plus. But the women, it's great to see the women and to see how it's growing. I remember over 20 years ago, you wouldn't have hardly seen any women competing at all. 25 years, you wouldn't have seen any. There's an athlete by the name of Shannon Hartnett. She was a strength athlete from Northern California. She got involved in Highland Games so there. It started to grow. And now we see multiple classes. The women's lightweights, women's Masters 40, 50, 60 plus, even alternate 70 plus, and as well as women's A group. And it's great to see it, how it's evolving, how it's growing. To give you an example, for this year, we had All-American Highland Games series, which led to the championships. Top three for each of the groups. In the men's and women's A group, men's and women's 40s and 50 plus, top three goes forward to Chile to compete in 2021. And then we've got in the Bresweir International Highland Games, our 3 women will be competing in the open competition there. So the doors are opening for women to compete, not just in America, but across the world in major ongoing competitions. And it's fantastic. And
right.
The crowd loves it. They get behind them at the games, cheering them on. And it's great to see everything evolving and growing. And that's what the IHBF is all about, helping to promote and grow the sport, not just in the men's A group or pro division, but the women's amateur and masters, as well as pros for future.
Right. Very much so. And we were seeing a picture of you with one of the judges on one of the fields where you were announcing, and of course it's important to be, I guess, working with the judges or getting information from the judges as you announce, who's in the lead, what they need to do next, what the next athlete needs to maybe finish or achieve in order to take over first place. All that kind of stuff you're keeping kind of running in your head, I would assume, as you're out there, right?
Yeah, because I'll be moving from event to event. We could have the A group men at one end of the field. We could have the Masters women at the other end of the field. So I'm going between them all. So the judges, they keep me updated on who's leading, the current distance, so I can keep the spectators updated on everything that's going on. So. I'll go around the various groups, highlighting them and let the audience know what's happening.
And many times it's multiple events at the same time, and you're kind of bouncing from one to the other to the other, right? As you move around the field. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'll just be going from one to the next, and everybody know what's happening, what's going on. Yeah.
Very good. And as we talk a little bit about some of the records and some of the things that are that you keep track of and get from the judges and announce to the crowd, it seemed to me, in my experience too, of being part of the Highland Games, that, and you talked about the camaraderie of the athletes, that they're really not trying to maybe beat each other, but really maybe have a personal best or beat their last time doing that particular event or wherever the case may be. There doesn't seem to be a lot of athlete to athlete competition, but maybe I've missed it. Do you see that too, or am I wrong?
Well, every athlete, they're here to win.
Yeah.
They want to win at competition. They want to do well, but at the same time, there is a sportsmanship.
Yeah, that's it.
Like no other. There might be an athlete leading a competition, but yet he's giving some advice to his fellow competitor and has a chance of beating him. Now, what better sportsmanship can you get in that? He's giving him tips, and it's great to see the camaraderie between the athletes in the Highland Games.
Yeah,
and that's across the board, all the categories. They're helping one another, and they'll suggest, you can just angle yourself here a little, or, it's a good sportsmanship between the athletes. Very, very good.
Definitely, and I think that's what I was thinking of. That's what I've seen on the field and have seen them do with their fellow competitors as well. So. Francis Bregner, tell us about your life now. You mentioned you were just in Wichita this past weekend, and so you continue to travel around to do what you do at these events, correct?
Yeah, well, I promote the IHGF International Highland Games Federation, which establishes and puts championship events
okay.
All around the world, and this last several years I've been promoting the IHGF All-American Highland Games Championships, and these are a series of games held across America where athletes can qualify to go forward to the finals, and it has grown now to where we're inviting not only the A group athletes, men's and women's, but now the masters, 40s and 50 plus, to come compete in the series to qualify going forward to the finals. In the last several years, Wichita, with the Great Plains Renaissance Highland Games Festival, that's been the finals of the championships, and for there we determine the overall winner is forward to compete in the World Championships in Four Norway. Now that event is held every year in Norway, and it's a televised event for Europe, European TV. Highland Games is very popular in Europe, and many of the countries such as Germany, France, Switzerland, very, very popular. And last year we did for the first time a World Highland Games series last year, which kicked off in Brebner, France, and for there to Switzerland, and we finished off in Norway. And that was actually won by Skylar Arneson last year. Skylar Arneson of Kansas, he won the World Series. Very close competition and the series between himself and Glenn Humes of Belgium. But, so the IHGF is promoting this and establishing championship events wherever possible to keep the sport ongoing. As I say, Chile is another major event that's happening in April next year. And then again we've got France, and then Hungary is going to be another major Highland Games event taking place there. And there's one more games, I'm just waiting to be confirmed. There's going to be quite a big event that's going to be held in Europe for next year. But as well as that, the IHGF is promoting many championship events in America, and one more event is going to be added to the championship list. Is going to be a World Amateur Highland Games Championship. Now we have a women's World Professional Highland Games Championship, but we're adding a women's Amateur World Championship to the 2021 roster of events for next year. Yep.
Very good.
So everything's looking good as Highland Games continue to grow in America, and it's great to see the turnout, the athletes, the games, especially from track and field backgrounds, we're seeing.
Right.
And that sport is just continuing to grow. It's growing every year, and it's fantastic.
Which is great to see. That's very true. Well, Francis, we hope that you will save the first weekend in October for your trip to New Mexico so we can maybe see you in Aztec next year. We're sorry we can't be together this year, but I do appreciate you taking the time to speak with me this morning about your recollections and your involvement with the Highland Games. It's a great organization. I've been really thrilled to be a part of it in Aztec, and certainly great to work alongside of you when we get a chance to do that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. I look forward to seeing everybody in Aztec next year. And until then, everybody take care.
You stay well, and we'll see you next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.